Alright, hello guys, welcome to our next notes video. We are about to start our ratio and proportions unit. We are in unit 7, so you should be starting on a fully blank page. It should be the page right after our solving one-step multiplication and division inequalities. So I'm going to take my tab divider, just like always. I'm going to fold on the middle of the 3 lines. I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to glue the entire back of it. And then I'm going to glue it down, lining the first line up with the edge of the paper, and then I'm going to flip it over and glue the back of it down. So now it is like a tab divider. And I'm going to label that page Unit 7, Ratios and Proportions. Okay, now that we are done with that page, you are going to flip. And so on the back of the tab divider page, we're going to start off with the blue sheet of paper that says ratio notes. So we're going to trim the bottom, trim the sides. Then you can keep the part that says ratio notes, but you can trim off the part that says name and date. And when you're done trimming, put glue on the back of it. And glue it down to the page directly behind the tab divider. So the first page is ratio notes. The second page I'm going to have you glue down is the pink page. So you're going to trim off the bottom, trim off the side. The pink page is talking about ratio tables. And then you can trim off the top where it says name, but keep the part that says finding missing values. I'm just going to trim it up. Once all 4 sides are trimmed, glue the back. And then glue it down. And now we have our notes on ratio tables ready to go. Then the next page that you are going to cut is the purple, the dark purple sheet of paper. This says ratio tables and graphs. So you can trim up the bottom, the sides, the top, keep the title where it says ratio table and graph notes. And then once again, put glue on the back of it. And now we have our notes over ratio tables and graphs ready to go. Then our next page is going to be the dark pink page that says unit rate notes. So we're going to trim up the bottom. Trim up the sides. Keep the unit rate notes, but cut off the part that says name and date. You do not need it. And then the last side. And then once again, flip it over. Put glue on it. And glue it down right next to the purple sheet of paper. And there we go. All right, then the next page that we need to write down, we do not have a piece of paper for, so you are just going to title it Proportional versus non-proportional. And I'm going to actually have you do 2 pages for that, just in case we need both pages. So you should have 2 pages that say proportional and non-proportional up at the top. So those are your next 2 pages. They are blank, but they say proportional versus non-proportional. Once you have written on those 2 pages, you can flip again. And then the next page you will cut and glue. This time it'll be the yellow page and it'll say proportional notes up at the top. So you'll trim off the bottom, the sides, and then keep where it says proportions notes. So you can trim off the part that says name and date. Then you will glue the back. And glue it down. And now we have proportion notes. And then the next page you'll glue down is the orange piece of paper, which is solving proportions or setting up proportions. So it says setting up proportion, you'll trim off the bottoms, the sides, and then once again, keep the part that says setting up proportions, but you can trim off the part that says name and date, put glue on the back of it. And then glue it down next to the yellow sheet of paper. All right, so there are all of our notes over proportions. Now we're going to turn the page again, and we're going to start getting into our fractions, decimals, and percents. So you are going to get to this piece of paper here that says fractions, decimals, and percents on it. And you're going to want to trim up the outside. I'm going to warn you, this is going to be really tight in your notebook. It just is a really big sheet of paper. So if you need to fold it and glue it halfway down and then use it as like an open thing, you totally can. You just got to make it fit. So mine can fit, so I'm going to glue it all the way down. But if you need to fold yours to make it fit, fold it to make it fit. That is totally fine. And put glue on the back of it and glue it down to the next piece of paper. Then after that, you are going to take the yellow sheet of paper that says FDP Bingo on it. And you're going to trim up the bottom, the sides. You are going to go up right above, making sure you keep the fraction, decimal, and percent patterns, but you can trim off the name section area and where it says FDP Bingo. You do not need those. And then you can glue the yellow sheet down onto the next page. Okay, on the back of the yellow sheet, we are going to just write FDP stands for fractions, decimal, percent. We're going to write conversion tricks. So I'll give you some tips and tricks to make certain ones easier. Okay, then when you've written down the FDP conversion tricks, your next page is going to be this teal color page that says comparing fractions, decimal, and percent practice. So you're going to trim off the bottom, trim off the sides, And then keep where it says compare fractions, decimal, and percents. You can trim off the name and date since we don't need that. Glue the back of it. And then glue that down to the page right after where it says conversion tricks. And then you're going to go to the next page and you are going to put the lime green piece of paper down. This one says order fractions, decimals, and percents. So we're going to trim that piece of paper up. Keeping the title, taking the name and date off just like always. And then trimming everything else off. And then you can put glue on the back of it. Glue that page down. So now we have our order fractions, decimal, percent page is right behind our compare fractions, decimals, and percents. Then our next page we don't have a piece of paper for, so we are just going to title it percent of a number. So that page should be titled percent of a number, and we'll just have one page over percent of a number. So then the page directly behind it will be our last page that we need to cut out, which is discounts, taxes, and tips. So we're going to trim up that page, bottom, sides, and then the top, leaving the title, and then gluing the back. And gluing it down to the page directly behind where we wrote percent of a number. So now we have our discount, tax, and tips notes. And we have a few more pages that we need to write. We're going to write one more page of discounts, taxes, and tips. So that's next page after it should be titled discounts, taxes, and tips. Then we're going to turn the page, and the next page behind that is going to be over percent change. And we're going to do 2 pages of percent change, so we should have percent change, and one more for percent change. And that will be all of the notes that we have for this unit. It is a pretty big one. So let's go back to the very beginning, make sure we have everything. So we should have Unit 7, ratios and proportions with our tab divider. Turn the page, you have your blue ratio notes, then your pink ratio tables. Turn it again, you have your purple ratio table and graphs, then your pink unit rate notes. Turn it again, and both pages are blank, but both pages say proportional versus non-proportional relationships. Then the next 2 pages when you flip should be a yellow proportional notes sheet and a setting up proportional orange sheet. Then we flip it again and we have a gray fractions, decimal, and percent piece of paper, and then a yellow fraction, decimal, percent pattern paper. Flip it again, we have conversion tricks for FDP, that page is blank. Then we have a teal compare fractions, decimal, and percent piece of paper, and then a lime green fractions, decimal, and percent paper with ordering. Then we have a blank sheet of paper that says percent of a number. Then we have a green sheet of paper that says discount, taxes, and tips. And next page over says discount, taxes, and tips. and then the next 2 pages say percent change and percent change. Notebook must be set up exactly like this or it will be considered late and you will have to do the whole thing over again. So make sure you have everything proper for when we have our first class the day after our DCA. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. Thanks so much.